Need some liquid courage. Alright, Decibel Jones it is. Space opera it is. Ba-ba-da-ba! Space opera. Alright, dear ones. When last we saw our hero... Oh, this section is about the cat that joins them on the spaceship. That's exciting. Alright. Ahem. Alright, let's get situated. Near. Far. I swear I'm a professional. Oh yeah, back support. That's what I was looking for. Alright, darlings. When last we saw our heroes, they had just boarded the spacecraft above Earth. Oh man, there's going to be a lot of voices in this one. Boop boop. Let's see. All right. Oh, I think I found it. Okay, chapter 16. See, I've stopped using bookmarks since they go missing in my house. Welcome, everyone, to the GlamourHobo Bedtime Tales. I am Carmel, your bedtime tale teller. We are reading Space Opera by Catherynne M. Valente. I highly recommend that you go out and buy this book. I'm a mess. I just lost the flowers out of my ears. Having a day. All right. I am a real boy. The 19th Metagalactic Grand Prix was held on Palul, the Smaragdi homeworld. It was the first time a species who did not fight in the war on account of their having been minding their own business at the time, toddling about with endearing hesitance on their 2 moons, and not bothering anyone except the moon bears, attempted to sing their way into the upper echelons of galactic society. Contrary to popular opinion concerning the desirability of getting in early on Alpha Centauri real estate development, Palul is the nearest planet to Earth that wouldn't entirely murder any human being who set foot on it. At the very least, you'd have time to get a nice shark's heart sausage in at one of the Blue Rutu's finer bistro before low-gravity, high-pressure atmosphere and the global, rather well-founded cynicism on the subject of strangers started rather dramatically forcing blood out of the ends of your hair. Some 40 light-years away in the constellation of Aquarius, P.S. Yesterday was full moon in Aquarius, Palul revolves around an ultra-cool blue dwarf star that humans have designated TRAPPIST-1. The Smaragdi, however, call their pale minimalist sun Lagom, a word that means, in their exceedingly specific language, a spouse who habitually withholds affection but comes through with a squeeze when you really need them and always pays the bills on time. Palul itself means the parent who gives and gives, but it is never enough for their ungrateful children who will probably never amount to anything anyways. Among the Smaragdi, self-deprecation has been refined into an art. You have not truly embraced the possibilities of an intergalactic life until you have awkwardly nibbled vapor cheese and drunk platinum wine at a stand-up modesty show on Palul. It is a cold crystal place covered in cold crystal oceans and warm crystal people. At least it was. Because Lagom is never much in the mood for the whole sensually nurturing solar warmth gig, Palul is a semi-hollow world. If you were to stand on the opal-crusted peak of Mount Ailinin, far from the lights of the great Smaragdi cities, and look into the sky, you would see, just before your eyelashes started bleeding, what the ancient Smaragdi were doing while life on Earth was just sorting out whether two cells could ever really be better than one. Even the Alunizar were astonished when they careened drunkenly into this little world of grotesque monsters surrounded by engineering's answer to the Sistine Chapel. Unfortunately for them, the Smaragdi seemed to have been created in a lab for the express purpose of scaring the salt water out of an Alunizar. A Smaragdin looks very much as though someone built the most unnecessarily elaborate set of 18th century Spanish plate armor out of bleached ivory and quartz, gave it a head of blue-white hair like a 1970s shampoo commercial, stretched the whole thing out to 9 or 10 feet like particularly stern and judgmental taffy, then thought it might be a bit intimidating, and painted a bit of pastel green and lavender on the joint blades for a more festive spring look. The overall effect would seem quite beautiful and haunting to a human, but to a short, technicolor, invertebrate Alunizar, they look like the devil's own skeleton. Palul is snugly encased in Old Rutu's bindle, a cross-hatched topiary of translucent solar rods designed by the classical poet-engineer Old Rutu to catch Lugum's emotionally unavailable light, beef it up a bit, and direct it usefully to the most inhabited parts of the surface. The glaciated surface of Palul was suddenly polka-dotted with pools of Rutu's blessed artificial alpine climate, full of silver ferns, blue-gray orchards, heavy with gin fruit, and liquid oceans in which the neon-blooded soufflet sharks swim free. The name of Old Rutu is, among the Smaragdi, spoken with an awe equivalent to Jesus Christ and Nikola Tesla borrowing Buddha's tandem bicycle for a quick Sunday ride through Shakespeare's back garden. On Activation Day, every city on Palul scrambled to rename itself after him, which caused a great deal of confusion, upset feelings, cancelled family reunions. Rutu's absolutely forbidding anyone to do any such stupid thing, as it was no big deal. I was up here anyways, might as well do a spot of DIY while I've still got my health, you know. You could have someone in, they'll only rip you off, and besides, you'd all do the same for me anyways. It's a bit of rubbish. I was in a rush. 2 regional wars, and a small but feisty economic crisis until it was decided that everyone was pretty. They all loved the old man equally, and there was quite enough Rutu to go around, and the map makers would just have to seek out anxiety medication. Hence, on Palul, you will find no London, Paris, Vlimou, or Allen, but only Blue Rutu, White Rutu, Little Rutu, New Rutu, Rutu by the Sea, Dirty Rutu, Broke Down Rutu, Backwards Rutu, and so on, and so forth. Controversially, The 22nd Metagalactic Grand Prix was held in Dirty Rutu, the Smaragdi answer to Prague. Once the capital of a great empire, torn apart by war, religion, vanished industry, and tourists who know in their hearts that it's not wrong to get so phenomenally plastered that you punch a police horse, because everyone knows horses vote Tory just so long as you do it while ignoring some of the most sublime architecture in the universe. Catherynne and Valente, I have to say, that reference cuts very deep and very specific. So this must be some sort of reference about British tourists who punch police horses. But when in doubt, blame the Tories. I'm for it. All right. The general idea was that whether or not the Yortmak turned out to be sentient, it would be rather poor form to rub their alleged noses in the cosmopolitan delights of Blue Rutu and then send them home full of envy and the slow, wistful poisoning of a farm boy's dissatisfaction with his pigs after he has seen palaces. Even if they ended up having to roast the poor things shortly afterwards, it just didn't seem very nice. Thank you for complimenting my teapot. It was a gift from my housemates, because for a minute I was thinking about building a witch cottage or a tiny house, and then it turned out to be infeasible, and so they gave me this. It's got a bird on it. No one expected much of anything out of the Yurtmak in the way of danceable pop hits. The Utorak had discovered their world by accident and immediately wished they hadn't. The first officer on a deep space fishing boat hunting the vast, delicious, and deadly Zobak crabs that scuttled through the galaxy, sucking at hidden tide pools of dark matter, picking up the faint broadcast of what their xenotropologist surmised was a folk festival emanating from a little planet by the name of Yint. Had the Urtamak then required all Zabomak trawlers to carry accredited translators on board as they do now, the poor Utarak commander would have known right away that the folk festival in question was the Yurtmak Super Murder Derby 9000, and very likely turned right around and headed towards safer embraces of giant dark matter crabs in the lonely depths of the void. The Yurtmak were clownishly violent, disgusting to look at, in possession of a language that sounded like someone enthusiastically smashing pots and pans together in a hot tar pit, and hadn't even gotten around to inventing agriculture before somehow bafflingly managing spaceflight. They were exactly the sort of species the sentience wars had raged across the known cosmos to prevent from getting too big for their interstellar trousers. But rules are rules. No blowing up the horrifying death goblins next door without a bit of a song and a dance first. The Jiv won that year. Being a group intelligence comprised of hot pink algae genetically fused with nanocomputational spores, the Jiv never formed rock pans, per se. They sent the same supergroup to the Grand Prix every year. Some 60% of their species decanted into artful vases and simply called us. They sang by pheromone, a crescendo of infectious hormones that maddened the mating instincts of every species in the dirty Rutu flophouse and grill. A vast, glittering, state-of-the-art performance arena seating over 100,000. until the slightest whisper sounded like a techno-erotic laser light show of the soul, at which point us spilled out of their vases in an undulating rosy wave, spun up into a towering spiral of velvet sparkling life, and sang in ancient Jiv folk ballad called Love is Easy When You're a Hive Mind, coupled with the thumping, thrusting, subwoofer slaughtering beat, dispersing on the downbeat, slamming back into their magenta spire on the upbeat, and bringing the house all the way down. Yetigan Yump, murder derby champion and celebrated torch singer, walked across the spotless frozen floor of the flop house dressed in a traditional Yortmac lung gown, her dripping, pustulant face hidden beneath a black veil so long it wrapped twice around the stage. She held something in her arms. The lights turned red and heavy and dim. A slow drum pulsed. Yatigan tore open the veil with her claws and revealed her instrument, the skeleton of her mate, cleaned and polished and hollowed, so that when she wrapped her arms around him and tenderly kissed his fangs, her breath filled up his bones and emerged from the ribcage as a savage and anguished melody called Death is a Wish Your Fists Make. It's not what you think, went the chorus. Don't be afraid. To love is to slaughter is to love. But by the rocks below and the rocks above, you don't do it either, you don't do either one, unless the other guy's really into it. At the conclusion of the song, which went on to become a popular choice for wedding DJs, Yatigan set herself on fire and burned to death in front of everyone with a smile on her face, waving delightedly to her fans as the audience threw flowers onto her pyre and watched them sizzle up to the heavens. The judging was not quick. 100,000 dinners were ordered in from neighboring Rutus. In the early hours of the next morning it was decided, by a very slim margin, that Yatigan Yump and all her people were undeniably alive, intelligent, and possessed of a complex inner life, especially since Utarak had really phoned it in that year with the entirely forgettable Shall I compare thee to a dark matter crab? Yet, if not for Yatigan Yump's sacrifice, the galaxy's children would never have grown up under the not terribly gentle ministrations of Gorgonur Gorcannon's unkillable fats, the 20th of which, penned for that occasion of the 23rd Grand Prix on Yint, is No one is ever really satisfied with what they've got. Look at that skinny bastard old Rutu. He hitted up his whole planet like a leftover takeaway and he still wasn't that happy, and if you ask me, people are mostly happiest when they think they're just about to get the thing they want most. Before that, and after, they're all monsters. Oh, goodness. I have to hydrate. Chapter 17. Every way that I can. Oh god, this is the red panda, the Keshet. Okay. Hi, hello, hi! Ort, Saint Ultraviolet, and Decibel Jones individually and collectively assumed that the time-traveling red panda called Ooh leapt up as they boarded, made a high-pitched squealing noise, and careened over backwards, waving his paws in the air because he was just so feverishly excited to meet them. However, among the Keshet, this is a cool, eminently diplomatic, even standoffish greeting. Down to the souls of its cells, a keshet is a constant atomic, temporal, and emotional ball pit into which an infinite army of cake-addled toddlers jumps over and over, and it is every single one of their birthdays, forever. And he wasn't happy to see them at all. Ooh is me, and you are them, and we are all, but what? Who? Wait, stop, wait, are you not Yoko Ono? What, how, what the fuck, Al? I gave you a picture of her and everything. Do all primates still look like the same, identical, the same as you? We have practiced, Al. We practiced all the way here. It was so boring. Al? Des asked. You're not Al. Al runs chip shop on the corner. Al fixes the furnace. You're the road runner. That's what you call me. And look, Des, I like you a lot. But I've nibbled heaps of memories in the last 24 hours, so I know what a Looney Tunes is. And frankly, I think it's a bit insensitive. Ooh, time is far too valuable and volatile to dribble it away calling me Altonot who runs faster than wisdom down the Milk Road. But at least he uses part of my actual name, because that's respect, isn't it? Sorry, mumbled Decibel. Sorry, or Saint Ultraviolet repeated with a shrug. No, yes, no, I love it, it's perfect, far way better than Al. We received the Dog and Bird and Bomb and Crayon and Canyon and show in the big radio wave hall of this world. It was excellent, great, excellent, all right, excellent, yes. A song of nihilism and the hopelessness of desire. At first we thought it was such an obvious allegory for the war that we ignore it. But must be one of us. You know, some pirate cartoon channel out of the octave space junking up the signal. Nope. Coincidence, chance, fate, chance. An echo in the great unconscious. I hate that. Makes my job harder. But it's perfect, correct. That's you, Al. You're the Roadrunner. I'm going to call you that from now on. I'll alert the other Keshet when I get back into the continuity. They won't be happy about Yoko Ono, though. It seems Mrs. Ono died. Ooh. The great big blue fish flamingo went on, in what Des could only assume was her own voice. Or perhaps one of the hyperactive red panda's school friends. He wondered suddenly if it was very tough to keep it all straight. It is. To skim for the right voice every time you talk to someone. It's very difficult. Thank you for noticing, Decibel Jones. Decibel Jones rather wished he could scrape off the top of an audience's memory and sing however the fuck they wanted him to sing. He supposed he'd known how once. Very sorry. I did try, and I can tell them apart. They all have different thumbnails, it turns out. You didn't tell me that. And you told me Yoko Ono was alive. That's 2 major stuff-ups. If you'd use even one of those day planners I keep buying you, you wouldn't have kept having all of these embarrassing mistakes. Died? When, why? How could this happen? Oh no. What about Kyoko? Did she ever find her mommy's hand in the snow, in the rain? 3 years ago, I think, Ort Ultraviolet said hopefully. She died of, of being an old lady, really. Ooh, blinked his adorable brown eyes and rubbed his fuzzy apricot-colored cheeks with his paws. I don't get it. What's there to get, love? She was 90 or something, wasn't she? The red panda wriggled his button nose. No. But why? How should that? Why should that kill anybody? I'll let that question drift pointlessly unacknowledged among them like a fart at a dinner party. This is what's left of the band. Decibel Jones and the Absolute Zeros. Ooh, they'll do fine. Probably. The Keshet made a face like he hadn't eaten, The Keshet made a face like he'd just eaten kale for the first time, and scrambled down a long corridor lit with a calming, dappled undersea light that flowed out from the holes in the thick black coral. He spun around in circles, found things to eat hidden in his striped tail, and bounced over himself several times. K, pay attention. I'm not going to through this twice. Well, I will go through it twice. More than twice. Way far more. I will conduct your tour of the good ship Cake in the Rain, 10 to the 47th power. Times before the waveform sets and this whole timeline gets served at the table. Ooh stopped, fell over backwards, and looked up at them, clasping his little black paws. You see, gentlemen, time is a cheesecake. It must be whip, stirred and mixed and creamed and frapped by someone who knows what he's doing. And then it must be left to set in the refrigerator until all the chronologies gel into something the multiverse can sink its teeths into. And though, to be honest, even after it's set, the whole thing is quite jiggly and wobbly, and you can stick your fists through it and cram handfuls into your mouth because time is so yummy and fattening. But you won't go through it twice. So heads up, sailors. Well, you will go through it twice, but you won't know it. Ooh, the ship's mandatory Keshet tumbled off down the hall. Look. If you see this fluffy orange ice cream, sherbet cream looking coral, don't eat it. It's a doorknob. Lifts are clearly marked by an angry squid. Commands that way. Cafeteria on Reef 4. Cocktails at 7 p.m. And the observation deck, that's in the engine room. Don't look in there. Jesus Christ! Decibel Jones cried out as they passed a round jelly glass window into the engine room. Inside, they could clearly see a lovely Victorian-looking bedroom with green curtains and a splendid four-poster bed on which two undeniably naked and undeniably human people were rather vigorously going at it. Not an engine, Witt shouted, as if to someone who could fix it up. Not an engine! Sorry, miss, sir, sorry. But it was an engine. It was, in fact, the absolute pinnacle of propulsion technology. God, I love this book so much. Ahem. Tell us why, Catherynne. The Keshet effulgence owes its exalted position in galactic society to its patent on the paradox box. Simply the most efficient FTL drive ever imagined by any species. You'll remember FTL means faster than light. A ship that wishes to avoid the unpleasantness of the public wormhole system is required by corporate law and the desire for self-preservation to have a Keshet representative on board, as anyone else attempting to work the box would find their molecules subjected to all manner of assault in defiance of time, logic, and propriety. For example, summarily rearranged to resemble a painting by Picasso after it has been shat on by a sexually frustrated emu and delivered to the doorstep of a wholly perplexed pre-asp Cleopatra. That is also so specific. The paradox box is a simple enough concept that could only have been discovered by a species born with the chronochondria of their selves set to fun. The splitting of an atom is nothing compared to the energy released by even a small, unassuming, paint-by-numbers time travel paradox. This is why the prudent time traveler avoids at all costs meeting their younger selves or killing the inventor of time travel, a very nice little girl named Melinda Moss, who was, not coincidentally, but definitively improbably, also the progenitor of the Keshet, who will have once, someday, had a terrible accident with a wormhole, a zoo, and a lifetime of emotional neglect. Or buying, selling, or gifting strange pocket watches without a properly established chain of provenance, or stepping on any important butterflies, or really any insects at all, if it can be helped. However, for a starship, such horrifying temporal train wrecks are a quick fill-up at the petrol station. The Keshet, luckily for travel agents everywhere, are born flitting from timeline to timeline like hummingbirds from flower to flower, to the invasion of the Mongols to the flower. They don't have to expend any more energy to do it than a human expends maintaining enough muscle tension to keep them from being a meat aspic. They cycle through every version of every timeline they come into contact with until all permutations are exhausted and the infinite forking decisions of everything ever have firmed up into a cool, refreshing reality. All of this takes no time whatsoever relative to the friends, loved ones, and office furniture of a Keshet, and the entirety of an all-time multiplied exponentially relative of the Keshet themselves. Ooh's attention deficit disorder dialect wasn't actually a stutter, but the only visible effect of all this constant cosmic channel surfing. Each time they get stuck repeating a word, it is a slightly different Keshet in a slightly different timeline, trying out a different linguistic path through the mess of it all. All of which is to say, whenever they're short on cash, an enterprising red panda will go scurrying about, snuffling up a paradox, pack it carefully into quantum bubble wrap, and deliver it to the nearest ship, installation included, where it can be safely held in a stasis field until someone presses the big red button. The cosmos shredding energy released by the paradox then dutifully shreds the cosmos, just a little, in the back, where no one will notice, allowing a vessel to cruise happily through the high-occupancy vehicle lane of space and time and come out the other end when the iterative cycles of the paradox exhaust themselves and become a cheesecake. Therefore, it's very important to select the right size paradox for the journey at hand. As the garden world of Lithost was a hefty journey of some 6,500 miles, had to find something juicy in the local pantry. Thus, in the engine room of Cake in the Rain, a Mr. Walter John Pritchard of Virginia Beach, Virginia, was very busy becoming his own grandfather. Thank you, Catherynne Valente, for the shout-out to Virginia. And very near. The here, right this way is your recording stateroom audio studio for the remainder 11 days of the flight. I know you'll want to get started right away writing the baseline of that total salvation of your species, so we've just stuffed it full of anything you might thought you need. Please pull the eel in the lavatory if we missed anything. Lilac-colored brain coral subwoofers studded the walls. Sea slug soundproofing rippled orangely across the ceiling. The floor was a lime green anemone shag carpet. A vast glittering soundboard dominated one corner. 3 jelly glass doors led off into bedrooms that could plausibly be comfortable for a human being. A swim-in closet overflowed with fabric in every type but matte and every color but brown next to a bank of mirrors. Des and Oort caught their reflections and did a proper slapstick double take. Look you, crowed Decibel. You've gone all first-year art project. So have I. All down the sides of their necks and across their collarbones a spray of deep scarlet leopardy spots had sprung up, if leopards were too glam for the veldt and soaked their spots in glitter before padding off to the club. That's encephalitis. Coming up nicely, said the roadrunner approvingly. Ort St. Ultraviolet looked as though he was about to be sick. He rubbed at his spots, but they weren't going anywhere. Decibel Jones preened. He pulled out his collar to see how far down they went, which was quite far. The whole place was lit with glowing purple-striped sea nettles that hung from the long encrusted ribs of the ship like party lanterns. Mira's drums and old Cassio sat proudly in the corner. Guitars lined one wall, normal non-choral guitars, famous guitars, Hendrix, Clapton's, Page's. Beneath them was Ort's petting farm, double-necked cello, electro-glass, hurdy-gurdy, uber-theremin moog, and a perfect glass ortophone. It was gorgeous. It was grotesque. It was an exact replica of their first recording studio in Hoxton, reclaimed by the sea. Nemopathy really was a hell of a thing, Decibel thought as he ran his fingers across the cymbal of Mira's drums. Mushy, mushy, wonderful, he whispered. I don't see any of my toys, sniffed Capo the short-haired cat, padding superciliously into the room after having thoroughly inspected the hallway. Hello, said Jones. What did you do to my cat? Ort exploded, pointing at the unconcerned feline like Salem girl at a tribal. Not okay! That is not okay! I agreed to spaceships and aliens and the possible end of life of Earth. I did not agree to tolerate talking cats. This is too much. It's too mad. It's out of genre. Undo it immediately. I gave her the ability to talk, said the tall, graceful Eska as she stepped gingerly into the room. It's very easy. Through the ear. Just a little strobe lighting in the hippocampus. A gift. I thought you would both enjoy it. Said Capo, licking her paw and whacking it over one ear vigorously. Also, it rather neatly proves a point. You keep saying that we converse, and therefore sentience is not in question. Now your pet converses, so perhaps you can see that speech is not the determining factor. Any animal can talk, but Capo cannot assemble a band and sing a heartbreaking work of popular music. She hasn't got thumbs, and post-production skills, or the vocal range. We did think about this sort of thing, you know. We did discuss it for more than a second or two. Could if I wanted to, Capo sniffed. You don't really know. You're just a birdie. A hungry look came into her green eyes. A big bird. Look, birdie, Ort said with a nervous laugh. He reached out to put his arm around the roadrunner, as he'd do with any hard-ass producer who just didn't understand what it was all about. This is all a laugh, right? What I mean is, you're not really going to incinerate our planet if we don't sing better than anyone else has sung in the whole history of humanity, right? It's just a bit of hazing. Messing about with the new kid in school, right? Well, you got us. Honestly, scared shitless me. I must have peed a little. The Yoko stuff was deep cut, really subtle comedy, but I get you. All the way. So to have a drink and skip to the part where everyone jumps out and yells, "Surprise! Fools you! You pronks! should see the look on your faces. All right? The Roadrunner blinked her gorgeously Disney eyes and looked away with something that could almost be mistaken for shame. I've got kids, mate. You didn't even let me call them. You turned my mobile into the left tit on your spaceship. What is wrong with you? Decibel Jones sprang into action. Yeah, sure, he was a drunk and a fool, wearing last night's rhinestones and tomorrow's hangover, long past his salad days or even his soup days. He was, in fact, approaching middle age, at the speed of paradox. But if he could still do anything in this universe, he could get his band on stage when they got the Eeyores, which had been, if you really thought about it, mostly all of the time. Okay, Omar, my darling, my arkable love, it's fine. It's fine. You don't need to call little Sarah and Samantha. Nico and Susie. God, really? Bit on the nose, don't you think? No, of course, lovely names. Good old Sue. Anyway, you don't need to call them because we'll be fine. Write the greatest song ever composed by man, beast, or polyp in 11 days? No problem. Don't you remember when we were writing Space Crumpet? Days laid out on the floor of some godforsaken flop, nights on the floor of some godforsaken nightclub. All of it paradise. All of it us. The lyrics came like honey, my dearest darling space oddity. The melodies came like wine, so we just do it again. Wind back the clock. You know what? We save the world like motherfucking Cape Crusaders, and the history books get printed in glitter from now on. On page 1 they'll say, thank you Decibel Jones and the absolute zeros. They chose us, gorgeous. Don't forget it. Out of everything, everyone singing and playing and auto-tuning their hearts out all of the southern planet, they chose us. Only because everyone else was dead, mate, mused Ort, stroking his cat's silky head and watching Des do what he always did, which was to shove everyone else's feelings into a sack and drown them in the ocean of his own enthusiasm. So what? So destiny. So that's what. So immortality. So me and you and Mira. Decibel Jones's face fell. Well, me and you. So your stupid cat. So flying a fuck-fueled aquarium to planet music and rocking so hard and so true, they'll know just how alive glam kind is. I can already hear it, Ort. I can hear the song that's gonna save us all, and you are gonna blast it from the quasars to the Queen's ears, and you and me are gonna sing it till the stars rain down like applause, my glorious, gloomy boy frack. Ooh, and I will leave you to it, said the space flamingo, bowing with Space Panda and beating a surprisingly sensitive retreat. Ort looked up at Des with moist eyes, almost like they used to look at him when he'd believed they'd find a manager, a label, a venue, a place on the charts, a place in the world, when he'd believed and they couldn't quite yet. When his belief and a kebab shared among them could keep them going through 1,001 Bobrindangian nights. I'm not your boy anything anymore, Ort said stonily as the cabin door shut. So just don't. Decibel blinked in hurt confusion. Hadn't Ort heard him? Hadn't he just been giving him the old eyes? Okay, Des, Ort said, playing the reconciling middle child between Decibel and the ghost of the Zero who'd missed the flight, as he'd done 100,000 times before. Okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear the song that's going to get me back to my girls. Give us a few bars. Decibel Jones clapped his hands together and broke into a smile that once graced the cover of every magazine worth its gloss. Oh, yes, sorry, that was a lie? I've no idea. And that is where we will end it tonight. My darlings, my dears, my space crumpets, my boy fracks. The history books will be written in glitter. I apologize, I haven't solidified their accents yet. I'm trying to do kind of a like central London thing for Ort, and kind of a like high class northern bit for Des. Not doing a very good job. But my darlings, I will see you next week. It's been my pleasure, my privilege. As always, if you've been nourishing the service, I encourage you to tip generously on PayPal or to join the GlamourHobo Nation. I'm going to put that up. But also, keep your eye out for me. I have some projecty stuff coming out about my show, Journey to the Kingdom of Hypnos. That is going to be a little bit more interactive for everyone. I'm thinking of putting an aggregator on my website so that the memories that you are called to in the show when you listen, you can actually put them up and see what other people remembered, and we can build a bit of a memory web, just like the show talks about. So that's coming. That's on the way. And we are very, very nearly, my loves, into spooky season. Very nearly. So it has been, as always, my pleasure and my privilege to be here with you in my sweaty room that smells of incense and tea, and to wear my bat ears and sing to you. I feel like I should try again, but good night, dear ones. Good night.